Hello everybody, Dan Hominem here, and today we are going over a Conlang project of mine called Darzaf in English. Keep in mind, Darzaf and its associated other language of Capsap are still in development. Keep in mind things will change as I receive community feedback. Things in this presentation are color-coded to show how likely they are to change. Blue is final, very unlikely to change. Green means I'm happy with it, but I'm open to change. Yellow, it's probably okay, but there might be a better way. Orange means I want to change it, but I think there's a better way, and I'm open to keeping it. Red means I do not like it, and I want to find a better way of doing it. And then dark red means this will change, I don't like it, and it's a temporary workaround. What is an auxlang? An auxlang, or auxiliary language, is a conlang or constructed language. Conlangs are languages that did not rise naturally, but instead were written by an individual or group. Examples are Elvish from Lord of the Rings, Dothraki from Game of Thrones, or Klingon from Star Trek. These languages aren't just random gibberish, but actual methodical languages with rules and structure. Examples are Tokipona, Ithkuil, and Solresol, which are artlangs, created to be artwork. Tokipona aims to have an incredibly small vocabulary, while Ithkuil aims to be as precise as possible. Solresol is a language that uses musical notes to communicate. Auxlangs are another subtype of conlang that exist with the goal of becoming a constructed lingua franca or common language. Right now, the lingua franca globally is English and used to be French, though some regions have their own, such as Swahili in East Africa or Russian in much of Eastern Europe. Examples of other auxlangs are Esperanto, the one you've probably heard of, Volapük, Esperanto but before Esperanto, Interlingua, a fork of Esperanto, Lingua Franca Nova, Common Romance Language, Interslavic, Common Slavic Language, Tokipona, but on accident. Darzaf is my attempt at making an auxlang, as I see many problems with other auxlangs. English has a ton of problems and is not even remotely neutral. Lojban sounds like spoken computer code. Volapük and Esperanto are far too Eurocentric in vocab and grammar. Tokipona isn't precise enough and wasn't meant to be an auxlang anyways. The problem with auxlangs. There's a fundamental issue with most auxlangs, and that is the choice between simplicity and precision. A precise language requires more words, more complex grammar, and takes longer to study. A simpler language lacks detail and is not as effective for communication, but is easier to learn. For example, Tokipona has problems with precision, as its small vocabulary cannot easily describe concepts such as the internet, astrophysics, or even apple juice. On the other hand, most natural languages are incredibly precise and complex, but take years of study to learn even a basic degree for most people. Darzaf's solution is to have two versions of the language. Capsap, unified speech, has a small and somewhat predictable vocabulary with 9 phonemes, marked parts of speech, and no grammatical features such as gender, number, or tenses. Its root words were randomly generated to ensure neutral vocabulary. Capsap aims to take no longer than a week of study to learn the vocabulary and basic grammar. Standard Darzaf is a more traditional language with optional grammatical markers for common features, roughly 22 phonemes, and a vastly expanded vocabulary. Some roots in Darzaf are randomly generated, and some are imported from their origin language. Example, the word fettuccine is imported from Italian. Capsap makes up the core of Darzaf, and when a Darzaf learner is stuck, they can switch to Capsap to continue their conversation. I hope that writing Darzaf in this way will allow it to accomplish both goals of simplicity and precision. Why will Darzaf succeed? I mean, it probably won't, but I have some strategies. Media. Conlangs have very few speakers and struggle with media. Esperanto is the most successful, but it can be very difficult to find Esperanto media that doesn't just talk about the language itself. Darzaf intends to focus heavily on non-meta media. I have an online radio station in the works, for example. The simplicity of Capsap. With how easy it is to learn Capsap, I hope to take people who are curious about the language and give them the resources to learn the language before they could lose motivation or interest. Even though Esperanto is the easiest language I have learned, it still takes a long time to master, especially if you aren't a native speaker of a European language. I aim for Capsap to be considerably quicker to learn than Esperanto. Community focus. Many a conlang has failed to get off the ground due to its primary writer being too protective of its works. Lojban and Esperanto both had major fractures due to this issue, and it may have very well killed Volapük completely. I intend on working closely with the learners and speakers of Darzaf to improve the language and look out for biases, contradictions, and inconsistencies I may have missed. Flexibility and gimmicks. Darzaf, and especially CapSap, intend on allowing their users to express themselves in as many ways as possible. Examples include CapSap Sign Language, support to be written in every major script, and even its own featural script. A Nupiaq numeral system for easy math. You can write CapSap with emojis. Yes, really. A Chinese-style logography that's not based on emojis, and much more. I'm working on creating a thorough documentation for CapSap and Darzaf to ensure resources for the language are available as soon as possible. CapSap is nearing completion and is mostly just working on reviewing some features and documentation before releasing CapSap 1.0. Work has officially began on Darzaf, but I intend on taking heavy community input before considering Darzaf anywhere near complete. Code switching and regionalization. Want to speak Darzaf with someone, but CapSap won't quite cut it? Don't know a word in Darzaf, or using a word or expression that's hard to translate? The flexibility of Darzaf allows for heavy code switching and on-the-fly importing from any language, so you can drop a word from another language you and the listener have in common with minimal adjustment needed. It is likely that regional vocabulary will make its way into Darzaf over time. I encourage this for the sake of language preservation. I hope to see many foreign loanwords make their way into standard Darzaf. I am okay with seeing regional dialects and a standard dialect akin to modern standard Arabic versus Arabic dialects. Learning resources. I will prioritize the creation of learning materials. I've began work on a course for the language, but at the moment there unfortunately isn't something out there where I can make a Duolingo type course. It's a priority, but it doesn't quite exist yet. What's next? Episode 1 will introduce learners to the basics of CapSap, its grammar, phonology, word structure, etc.